Hi guys, today we're going to be talking about one of the biggest happiness and energy drainers, which is perfectionism. So as you may know, perfectionism is our desire to appear completely flawless and perfect. Now there's two types of perfectionism. There's maladaptive perfectionism and adaptive perfectionism. Now adaptive perfectionism is actually considered quite healthy, and it's where we're happy when we achieve things in our life and we can tolerate certain imperfections in some areas. Whereas maladaptive perfectionists can't actually do this, and they expect every area of their life to be flawless and perfect. So some of the problems with being a maladaptive perfectionist is it completely saps the joy and happiness out of your life ultimately. You know, it can put strain on your relationships, it hinders your success because you don't want to go all in because your expectations are so, and your standards are so high that, you know, you procrastinate, you don't want to do it because it has to be perfect, and it just is a complete time energy drainer. So today we're going to give you 4 strategies to overcome perfectionism. So the first strategy to overcome your perfectionism is to become aware of your self-talk and challenge your inner critic. So perfectionism and what we say to ourselves in our head is very much a habit which we can change. So there are 2 things you can do to change the habit of keep on having perfectionist thoughts, or thoughts that support perfectionism. So the first way is to become really aware of when you say things like I'm not good enough or this isn't 100% right, and then change it with another phrase. So when you become aware of that thing, change it with something that doesn't support perfectionism but it empowers you instead. For example, I used to be someone who was really indecisive, and every time I was about to make a decision I felt indecisive, I would say things like, oh, I can't make this decision, it's too hard. And that really came from a place of wanting to be perfect and wanting to make the right decision and be perfect at the end of the day. It was a perfectionist supporting belief and thought. So what I did instead is I would flip that, and every time I would hear myself saying that, I would say, no, I can do this. I trust that my higher self will help me to create and make the right decision, and I'm on the correct path, and I trust myself. So basically just changing the perfectionist thought into something much more empowering to overcome that limiting thought. And the second way to challenge your inner critic is to actually have a physical tool, like have a journal or even notes on your notes app that has a list of all of your achievements and all of your qualities, so that every time those perfectionist thoughts come up, like, oh, I'm not good enough, or this, I can't get this 100%, then you can look at your list and refer back to it and see all the things that you've achieved, and actually challenge that thought that you're not good enough, because you can look at your list and see all the amazing things that you've already achieved. So our second tip is to realize that perfect isn't real, and our perception of perfection is completely impaired. Realize that with a perfectionist outlook, nothing will ever be good enough. Even if we reach our version of perfect, we will still, with that perfectionist mindset or outlook, think, oh, but I could have got there quicker, or I could have achieved it better, or I could have done this better. Because with a perfectionist mindset, nothing will ever be perfect. You will always find a flaw. So there's a few questions you can ask yourself when you think you have a perfectionist outlook or you're looking for something to be perfect. So ask yourself, what would it actually take to be perfect? Is it worth the sacrifice? What's the worst thing that can happen? Will things be okay if you don't reach perfection? How would you deal with it? When you're a perfectionist, asking yourself these questions can often show you how unrealistic and high your standards are. So just realize you're already good enough as you are. Nothing is wrong with you. Perfection is unrealistic, so don't let it put you off or completely avoid something or procrastinate on it. The third strategy is shadow work. And what shadow work can do is it can help you to understand where these high expectations you are setting for yourself are coming from, and also what need it is fulfilling. So our habits usually fulfill a need, and perfectionism is no different. So sometimes we strive to be perfect because we don't feel perfect. So by trying to act perfect and produce, for example, a perfect piece of work, it's fulfilling that need of wanting to be perfect. So the idea of shadow work is basically this idea that we have hidden aspects of ourselves and things that we don't accept about ourselves that we kind of bury inside because we can't face them, or we think that if we show them to the world we won't be accepted. And what shadow work is about is integrating those parts and bringing those those parts of ourselves to the light, so to our consciousness, and starting to accept those parts of ourselves. And if there is something in yourself, for example, a childhood trauma that makes you feel that you're not worthy and you're not acceptable, then that could stem the need to be perfect, and that could be what's driving the perfectionism. So to do the shadow work to understand what the drive for perfectionism is, then that really helps us to start to actually make a change by just simply having the awareness. So our fourth strategy is to not base your self-worth exclusively on your achievements, especially when your standard as a perfectionist is so high. Many perfectionists believe that what they achieve makes them who they are. So when it comes to things like when they make a mistake, which is normal, which happens, they will not say, I made a mistake. They'll say, I am the mistake. Or when they fail at something, they won't say, I've failed on this. They'll say, I am the failure. So this happens when we believe our self-worth and who we are is based on what we achieve in life. And it makes our self-worth very fragile, because mistakes are bound to happen. Things are bound to happen as a part of life. Yeah, and I think a really good example of this from such a young age is just being at school. I think I remember when I was at school and students were described as either A students or C students or D students, and we became identified with the grade. And so our self-worth became, oh, I produced this grade, so that's what I'm worthy of, which is completely not the case. Our work should not be identified with who we are as people and our worth. So I think it starts and it's reinforced from such a young age. Yeah, it's reinforced by people around us, by society, by everyone. So it's really important to be super aware of it. So those are our 4 tips to overcome perfectionism. We hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you did, and please leave any comments down below of any tips that you have that we haven't mentioned. And until next time, thanks for watching. Bye.